We know employee engagement starts with shared purpose, a bigger than business goal, but an org chart contains few clues about how your company really gets things done. Our next speaker will dissect how big changes happen without an org chart, like Gandhi's independence movement, highlighting the six roles active in every movement that transcend job titles. You'll learn your role and how you can tailor messages and structure engagements for maximum appeal. Everybody, please welcome Jade Frank. Give her some love, give her some love.
Hello, my name is Jade, and I'd like to introduce myself to you in terms of demographics. So how a market researcher or data analyst might describe me. I'm a 30-something female from Portland, Oregon. I drive a Subaru. I probably spend as much money on my dog as I do on myself. I've held previous job titles as reporter, English teacher, community manager, and now community strategist. And these are demographics that you could learn from me before you walked into this room today, if maybe you stalked my Facebook page or looked at my LinkedIn profile, or maybe read my credit card history. But what I'll tell you is I'm not the person who's going to retweet your social post. And I'm also probably not the person who's going to fill out your customer feedback form on how you can improve your product. I'm just not. And today I want to tell you a little bit about why. We are living in a rapidly changing environment. Technology is on an exponential growth path. And this sort of new digital frontier is fueling entrepreneurs and social innovators with the tools, the capital, and the access to spark and sustain movements at a pace like never before possible. We are in a movement moment. Now, let me tell you what I mean by movement. Movements seem to sometimes rise up organically like magic and then spread like wildfire. But what we've seen is that there is a method behind them. At Context Partners, we define movements as collective actions that can change behaviors or social norms. So in this rapidly changing environment, we're seeing that top-down traditional organizational models are failing to keep that market advantage. But organizations that are thinking and acting like a social movement are rising. We've been working with client communities for many years now with literally thousands of different relationships. And what we've seen is there are some sort of core principles at play within these different organizations who are acting and thinking like movements. One of these things we call shared purpose, and the other thing are future thinking roles that we call aspirational roles. These provide inroads and pathways to thinking about how you can really put your community to action as your greatest asset. Now, technology may be accelerating the pace of how social movements can spread, but they're really similar today as they were 50 years ago. So movements like civil rights, environmentalism, Black Lives Matter, These have very similar core principles within them that we can all learn from and deploy to really put our greatest assets to work. The kinds of brands that we're seeing that are really thinking and acting like movements, for example, are Airbnb. Airbnb is really transforming the hospitality industry by reviving the share economy. Or brands like Patagonia, who are redefining corporate responsibility as a lifestyle. And that starts inside the organization with their employees. So let me talk a little bit about shared purpose. People are critical to sustaining movements. And you have to be really clear about how you want people to get involved and then stay involved. It's not about one transaction. It's about an ongoing experience. Movements define shared purpose as something that a group of people can do that no one individual can do on their own. So a shared purpose needs to be really clear and general enough to speak to many, but specific enough to strike a personal chord. And the best ones can be written on a t-shirt, like Patagonia's Live Simply. But shared purpose isn't something that's developed in a boardroom. It's something that's emergent from within a community. It pushes past mission, it pushes past vision, and it gets to something truly core, something central to our core values. So how do you find it? Well, you can hold a mirror up to your community and look and see what's there. If I know what drives you and you know what drives me, then we can find something that we have in common, and that's what we call our shared purpose. Let me give you an example. So Xiaomi is a technology company that's based in China. It's the 5th largest smartphone company in the world and the fastest growing consumer electronics company. Xiaomi's really learned how to put shared purpose as a market advantage. Xiaomi was built on this principle and belief that consumers are vital partners in product development. And they've created processes for really engaging user feedback to rapidly launch new products in a matter of weeks. Not months, not years, but weeks. They have this belief that user communities are more valuable than developers in the long run, and that true innovation comes from real-world experience. Xiaomi calls this shared purpose innovation everyone can enjoy. The CEO of Xiaomi calls his company a lifestyle company rather than a technology company that lives and dies by the devotion of its fans. So Xiaomi's shared purpose statement is concise. Innovation everyone can enjoy. Remember, the best ones can fit on a t-shirt. It's relational, so it's speaking to something that is bigger than just the success of the company. And it's timeless. It's as relevant today as it was 7 years ago and a decade from now. Another way that this plays out for Xiaomi is in how they've been able to really break down silos between executives and employees, between employees and consumers and executives. They've created this culture where not just the most polished ideas and products are launched, but where they can have really messy conversations about imperfect ideas and they engage across the org chart. This kind of engagement leads to better products and better broader engagement with their community. So what are some tips for shared purpose? For one, you can hire for purpose. So this is a little bit different than like hiring for shared values or hiring for culture fit. Culture fit is something that can be fraught with bias and can lead to a really homogeneous workplace. But when you hire for shared purpose, it's about aligning an individual's aspiration with the collective brand aspiration. And then once employees are hired, they really need to see how their role aligns with that shared purpose. And they need to be invited to act on that shared purpose in clear, tangible, consistent ways. Okay, let's talk about roles. Movements don't really matter if people don't know what to do, and people will act towards their aspirations every single time. Now, again, marketers and HR professionals often define us as a set of demographics. So how old we are, where we live, what our job titles are, how much we make. And while these facts are true, we're more than just our historical details. When someone defines me just as a set of my demographics, then brands, employers, and causes, they lose my trust. Movements, successful movements, invite people to act from their core. It goes beyond their job title. It goes beyond their social standing. Don't get me wrong, demographics are important, but they can trap us in our past behavior. There are 6 aspirational roles that are existent in every successful social movement. Now, we all know that our sense of being is an ever-evolving or changing thing. But the pathway that we're on rarely changes. And this consistent direction we call our aspirational identity. And so these 6 roles really play upon these aspirational identities. And when they work together towards a shared purpose, that's when the magic can really happen. Okay. So we're going to do a little experiment here. I'm going to ask all of you to close your eyes. I'm going to play a clip of music. Now, when you hear that music come on, I want you to listen, really listen, and I want you to hold on to that first thought that pops in your head, because we're going to use it in a minute. Okay, does everybody have their eyes closed? Are you ready? Okay, cue music. Okay, open your eyes. Now, what popped into your head when you first heard that music? Was it something anywhere in the ballpark of these statements that you see up here? If you're like me, then you might have thought of all of these things at once. But if there's something that aligns with what you were thinking, I want you to hold on to that. And I'm going to ask you just to pick one for now. Just trust me. So this is a clue as to what your aspirational role might be. These 6 roles are the roles that are working within every successful social movement. So raise your hand if you are a sharer. Do we have any sharers here? No, sharers. Any storytellers? Oh, a lot of storytellers, okay. What about connectors? Yeah, we got some connectors. I'm a connector too. So I'm a connector. I'm also an innovator. Sometimes I'm a storyteller. I'm definitely a builder, but at the core, I'm a connector. I love connecting people to people. I connect people to resources. I like to facilitate unlikely partnerships. And what gets me most excited is when I have opportunities to look at different possible connections in a broader system and bring them together for systems-wide change. So these roles may have nothing to do with your job title. But if organizations can offer employees and their consumers or broader communities opportunities to engage with these aspirational roles, then you have an opportunity to really act like a movement, especially when you're driving those roles towards a shared purpose. Now, these roles sometimes differ from community to community. You may not have all of those roles inside of your community. You might have some internally, some externally. And these are different ways that you might know who they are and where they exist. And it's a great starting place and jumping off point. Let's go back to Xiaomi for a second. So, Xiaomi, innovation everyone can enjoy. You might assume that at this company, everybody's innovators. But what they've done really uniquely is that they've allowed the community, they've allowed their consumers to be the innovators. And the employees within Xiaomi are acting as the curators. So they're looking for different trends. They're looking through user feedback and elevating the things that are most interesting up to the developers. They're sharers. They're sharing user feedback from the community to their developers, or they're sharing new products back out to the community. And most of them are likely builders. So they're really working hand in hand with the consumers to build the best technology. So remember when, at the beginning of this conversation, I told you that I wasn't going to share your social post and that I wasn't going to be the one to answer your feedback form? That's because I'm a connector. So now I hope that you can see that if you want me to engage in your cause or with your brand, or within your organization, that you need to invite me to act as a connector. This could be as simple as inviting me to make an introduction, or it could be on a deeper level, inviting me into a strategic conversation where I could help point out gaps and opportunities. When we really invite our employees and our community to act towards their aspirational selves, then we're driving the collective community towards where it wants to be. We're not holding them back in their past. And everyone gets to show up as their true selves, both in social spaces and in professional spaces. So shared purpose and clear roles, when these two principles are at play, you have an opportunity to really act like a movement. Thank you.